Good morning and welcome to our continued one-year anniversary special of Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, and you're watching WYDC TV Big Fox. Yesterday's broadcast was a lot of fun. I hope that you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed it, and thank you for all the comments these last few days, all the congratulations. Just yesterday, I received hello and congratulations, Frank, on your pinning. Yes, you may see the corning. I got the pin to the city from Mayor Boland yesterday. In recognition of all your contributions to the community and well-deserved kudos. Thank you so much. It's very kind. I appreciate all the comments. Also, I asked a question, and I received a kind of a mixed bag of responses, so I won't go through all of them. But I asked a question, if it were Aaron Rodgers or Jesse Ventura as RFK Jr.'s running mate, what are your thoughts on that? Do you have a favorite? Do you have an opinion on that? I don't know if that... And you may disagree, and I'd love to hear if you disagree. I think it may not add a lot of credence to his campaign. It may not. It may turn the campaign into somewhat of a joke in a way. But I will say, from all the negative coverage the media has been giving him since his Super Bowl ad, not liking the fact that he was starting to make some headway, there were a lot of negative stories. This story, however, has made the rounds. It has been everywhere. So if he does not pick either of those, it was still a very smart public relations move. Oh, look at all these waves coming in. Thank you so much. We have a couple New York updates. And speaking of New York updates, our guests this morning, Senator Tom O'Mara, and then we'll also be talking with Assemblyman Chris Friend. So we have had, I think, an amazing lineup this week, and I appreciate everybody who has joined us. Tomorrow we'll have a little more laid back, some more guests, of course, but not as politically heavy. Maybe some, I don't want to give too much away, but some information about the community and the like. So that is tomorrow. We've been celebrating all week, and I do appreciate you all for joining me. I've got to mention this because when we had former Congressman Joe Sempolinski, current candidate for New York State Assembly, Joe Sempolinski and I just had a quick conversation about Governor Cuomo, former Governor Cuomo, trying to, I guess, understand what his next move is. Because if you recall, on Sunday, he gave a speech at a church. He has been putting out op-eds, even in the New York Post. He has been now critical of Governor Hochul in a couple of instances. Well, yesterday on the Katz and Cosby show, he slammed Hochul's deployment of the National Guard in the New York City subways. Now, I know this is New York City related, and so wasn't the op-ed about congestion pricing, where he said originally he was for it, and now he realizes you've got to, quote, put the brakes on it. Well, Cuomo claimed that Governor Hochul's directive to station hundreds of troops in the subway system to check bags is useless. He said, quote, "You need police. The National Guard are not police, and we don't have to reinvent the wheel here." Why is there a spike in crime in the subway system? Because you have the lowest level of police in the subway system in a decade. Now, why am I bringing this up, talking about the city? Well, it's interesting how much Cuomo is making the rounds, but also that he's focusing on what is maybe Hochul's Achilles heel, and she realizes it after the race against Lee Zeldin, which is public safety. So he's saying there's a reduction in police. That's the real problem. You don't need the National Guard checking bags. You need transit police in the system. That's the answer. This is not what the National Guard does. It's not what they're trained to do. It's just politics, where the city council doesn't want to hire police, and the state doesn't want to say you should hire more police because it's this hangover from defund the police. New Yorkers elected a police officer as mayor. The signal is undeniable. You elect a former police officer because you're saying, I want public safety. We have fewer cops today than when they elected Mayor Adams. So now he's hitting Governor Hochul on public safety. So what is the end game? And the reason I bring this up is I would love to hear your response. Feel free at any time to reach out to that number, because we are going to get to our guests in just a moment. But I do find it fascinating that of all things, he's now bringing up public safety, which is not Hochul's strong point, even though she may tell you differently and has been, as of lately, telling you differently that, boy, she's very strong. And we brought it up with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, and I'm sure it'll come up today with Senator Tom O'Mara and Assemblyman Chris Friend. So enough on that. We've got to take our first break on the 1-year anniversary celebration, part 4 of Frankly Speaking, right here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
It's time to stock up on your favorite New York wines at GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads. GCP Discount Liquors and Wines has the largest selection of Finger Lakes wines in the Southern Tier, all under one roof. Whether you're looking for Lakewood, Wagner, Wise, or Haslett 1852 Vineyards, GCP Discount Liquors and Wines is your convenient one-stop shop for these great wineries and more, all at the area's lowest prices. Shop GCP Discount Liquors and Wines in Horseheads, the best in service, selection, and price.
Isn't yours important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Attention, if you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and now have uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call now to see if you qualify. There's no fee unless we win.
Our beautiful view of Market Street as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio on the 1-year anniversary edition of Frankly Speaking. I do have one quick announcement. We got to take a break because we have Senator Tom O'Mara on in just a moment, but it's only fair. I mentioned Cuomo. Hochul was on The View yesterday, and she is now blaming Republicans for the migrant crisis. I know they're saying that Hochul is a big surrogate for Biden, and I know that she's, trying to secure the House for Democrats through New York. But doesn't it always seem like she's behind the 8 ball when she talks about something? It seems like she uses somebody else's talking points. And that's what this feels like. The Republicans in Congress and in the Senate said no, because Donald Trump called him up one night, the night before. They should have voted on this to send 2,000 more agents, Border Patrol people, to the border. I need some on the northern border, by the way. We border Canada. Money for states like New York. That should have helped us a lot. And just have a different path of citizenship. And look at the asylum and whether it's too loose. Right now, the way it is being used and probably abused. So I blame the Republicans now. The mess was bipartisan before that. So it was bipartisan before that. President Biden, day one, essentially, removing that executive order of former President Trump's, campaigning on it, bragging about it, and opening the border. It was never, isn't that interesting? Now she blames Republicans 100%. Before, she didn't blame, for the last 3.5 years, didn't blame Democrats. It was still bipartisan for the last 3 years. Democrats and Republicans have not successfully found a way to have a path to legal citizenship because the employers want this. So again, behind the 8 ball, I just don't feel that this push that she's the be-all and end-all as a campaign type person is founded. But I pose this question to you. But we've got to take a break because we have Senator Tom O'Mara on when we return. So stay right there. This is Frankly Speaking. I'm Big Fox.
Coons sit and sleep in Corning. Hey, did you know that Coons has been in business since 1955? Wow, that's going on 70 years. And did you know that Coons is still family owned and operated? Really? That's 3 generations. Way to go, Steve. Did you also know that their salespeople are non-commissioned and they offer delivery and financing? That's awesome. So why do they want you to shop and compare then? Because they are confident that you won't find a better deal.
Guaranteed.
Coons sit and sleep in Corning.
Shop and compare.
If you or one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks are a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen One, the portable oxygen concentrator you can take almost anywhere.
With this little device, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
The Inogen One is so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen One for 30 days completely risk-free. Give us a call right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days completely risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen One system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 1-800-929-7290. Again, that's 1-800-929-7290.
Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox joining us for the 1-year anniversary celebration. Senator Tom O'Mara, thanks so much for being on the show.
Great to be with you, Frank, and happy anniversary.
Thank you.
It's great. I can't believe it's been a year already, but you continue to be maybe a lone voice of sanity and American and upstate values that we need to hear more of, and I really appreciate you sounding the alarm on so many things, on just the degradation of New York State and society in general, it seems like.
It's so heartbreaking, and here you are in Albany, right in the middle of it right now, but it is heartbreaking when we see the mass exodus, we see the public safety issues, immigration, the list can go on and on. So it does get kind of discouraging. How do you handle it being in Albany?
Well, to be honest, it's certainly demoralizing at times.
Yeah.
Being in the minority, in both houses of the legislature, we're outnumbered 2-1 by Democrat majorities, dominated by New York City. We've got a Democratic governor who's from upstate, but honestly, you wouldn't know it by a lot of things that she pushes. And the fight is worth it. I mean, upstate New York and New York State as a whole, it's just a fabulous place.
Beautiful.
It's been a great place to live, for me, to raise my family, for me growing up here in Horseheads in the southern tier, the Finger Lakes region. It's just fabulous. But when you go from, Lake Erie and Niagara Falls in the west to the Adirondacks to the beaches of Long Island, Hudson Valley, it's a spectacular state.
It really is. And that's what makes it so discouraging when you see the supermajority and you hear so many people talking about we need change, no one can afford to live here. Well, then let's stop with the supermajority already. Let's get out and vote.
It's about winning elections.
Yeah.
Elections have consequences. They haven't gone the way I would like to have seen them go over the past several election cycles. 6 years ago, It was when the Republicans lost the majority in the state Senate.
Yeah.
And we went from a majority of just one or two people of a majority over half to now it's 2-1. Outweighing against us. So our voices are certainly outnumbered.
Sure.
I think we win every debate on the floor of the legislature and in public discourse. And yet we still continue to get outvoted 2-1. That is discouraging, to be honest. But we're fighting. We're going into another election year. We're working very hard to seek opponents for Democratic incumbents. That we've got a whole slate of them lined up, great candidates, and we're hopeful of these issues that sooner or later, I'm hoping with my fingers crossed,
yes,
that New Yorkers wake up and start voting with their own personal interests and not the way it's been going.
Well, it's discouraging because it seems now that so many people are voting with their feet, right? And they're leaving the state. And you saw from the Times Union, but on the Daily News, DeNapoli saying out-migration is hurting state tax revenue, which to me is a no-brainer headline. What else did we expect?
Well, and we've been talking about this for years now. This is not the first time DeNapoli has come out with something like this. Today, or yesterday, he did it in conjunction with the head of the New York State Business Council. Because there's a big concern with businesses leaving New York. Manufacturing, we're seeing it across the state when manufacturers that have multi-state operations are making decisions of downsizing or streamlining. They're choosing to shutter their operation in New York State and move it to another more business-friendly state.
Right.
We're seeing it even more concerning. Manufacturing is the most concerning to me, but from a revenue perspective in New York State, we're seeing it in the financial industry, where financial industry jobs are leaving Wall Street, leaving New York City for lower cost states. For the first time ever, the state of Texas has more financial industry jobs than New York State does.
Wow.
And that should be sounding a huge alarm for everybody. Particularly the Democrats, who just want to spend and throw money around to pander for voting blocks in this state. They're going to run out of other people's money to fund all these programs that they've been bloating for decades.
Do you see anything positive coming out of the budget negotiations?
Let's hope that the DeNapoli's timing of controller's timing of this yesterday will help weigh in and control that. I don't think we're going to see any tax increases, but also I don't think we're going to see any tax decreases, which I would like to see.
Yeah.
It's about affordability. It's about businesses to be able to operate and run their businesses as best they can without interference from an overbearing state government. And that's what's been going on from just the tax perspective. Now the Green New Deal, electrification issues that are an alarming concern to manufacturers across the state on what the cost of doing business is going to be, and the concerns of more jobs leaving the state. We're seeing taxpayers leaving. Our population numbers would be far worse if it wasn't for the numbers of illegal immigrants coming in to the New York City area that offsets a lot of the losses we're seeing from across the rest of the state. So our numbers will be a lot worse. So we're losing tax-paying citizens, who individuals coming in with no or low skills, not contributing to society, not contributing in the form of tax revenues that everyday New Yorkers pay and struggle to pay day in and day out.
And I just want to touch on that because I want to talk public safety too in a second, but you mentioned the green energy proposals. I guess whenever we have this conversation, it just confuses me because the grid is not there yet. We do not have the technology for the things that have been proposed. So do we just still head right towards that, to that due date?
Well, that's the way it's going. That's why myself and my good friend and colleague Phil Palmisano were probably the two most outspoken ones in Albany on the concerns over this. We're at a meeting in Horseheads this last week with the head of NYSEG, talking about the improvements they're going through. The numbers are astronomical on it. I mean, they're doing just over a couple years now, I think $2.6 billion. They've only done $1.3 billion, and that's been built into their most recent rate case that increases NYSEG ratepayers' rates by 31% over a 2.5-year period. And that's just the beginning. The costs associated with this are unknown because the state has refused to do a real cost-benefit analysis to tell us what it's going to cost. Really, the utilities, if they're required to do these upgrades, those costs just get passed on to the ratepayers. It's not going to cost the utilities. They get approved in a rate case by the Public Service Commission and a built-in rate of return for those investments. So the utilities are only going to grow and make more money off of this when all these upgrade infrastructure requirements come online and are approved by the Public Service Commission with a built-in rate of return, typically around 9.5% rate of return. So I think that's part of the reason we're not seeing more pushback from utility companies, because, well, it's a lot of work for them, and everything gets passed through by approval of the Public Service Commission. And that's the way the state legislature set this up. When they passed the CLCPA and then the Climate Action Council, they only set goals, target dates with emission level reductions. No plan on how to get there, no direction on how to get there, and leaving it all up to the Public Service Commission and NYSERDA to make these decisions, which will then pass the costs on to ratepayers or various industries that are, using high levels of energy, and particularly in fossil fuels, which will just raise the cost up for everything. So the Democrats in power did do this on purpose, and they've done it in many circumstances. Look at what's going on right now with congestion pricing in New York City. And they're all up in arms about what it's going to cost New Yorkers to drive in below 62nd Street in New York City. Yet they set up this commission to make this decision, and now it's costing New Yorkers, which they knew was going to happen, but they're pointing the finger at the Congestion Pricing Commission the same way they're going to be pointing their finger at the Public Service Commission and NYSERDA on this. We were debating just last week on the floor of the legislature about electric school buses and what the cost is going to be.
It's astronomical.
The Democrat that was debating before this particular bill was saying, well, that's something that NYSERDA has to deal with, and NYSERDA is making these decisions, and they're going to cause the cost on all this. Well, no, the legislature set this up, and they passed the buck in the biggest way imaginable.
Just before we go, because you may hear that they're vacuuming in the background, so I'm trying to keep my mic off. But I want to talk about public safety, because I know you and I have had lengthy discussions in the past about, bail reform and these type of things. What did you think when Governor Hochul came out and tried to suggest that she's always been strong and tough on crime, and actually almost patting herself on the back how tough she is? It makes no sense to me.
It's incomprehensible. She's helped lead the way on a lot of these efforts. Certainly some of it was started under Cuomo, but she's carried that torch to get herself reelected. Criminal coddling policies across the board, we're seeing it. And, she's been telling us for months now that crime is getting better in New York City, that the subways are safe. It's just people's perception of it. Well, we see the news on all these things, and then she comes out last week and puts the National Guard in the subway system. You can't say one thing, that everything's fine, hunky-dory, safe, feel good about yourselves, and then throw the National Guard out in your next breath is really remarkable. And New Yorkers have got to wake up and really see that this is just blatant hypocrisy. What's going on?
Isn't it interesting? Because it's kind of like what we hear about with inflation now, where they tell us in the media, never mind what you're experiencing when you go to the grocery store, trust us and the numbers. Hochul's been doing that same thing when it comes to public safety from really day one.
Without a doubt. But I think New Yorkers know better. I know the constituents that I represent, the 58th Senate District, know better. What New Yorkers and other districts and other parts of the states are thinking, but they've got to come to their senses sooner rather than later, I hope, with the direction that this is going. and it just spells disaster for New York State as a whole. And certainly DiNapoli's report highlights that this week.
And I'd recommend anybody find it. It's on Empire Reports right now, but Times Union. Tom, thanks for giving us so much time. I know you're busy in Albany. I really appreciate you being a part of the one-year anniversary show.
Well, Frank, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be with you, as always. And again, happy anniversary.
Thank you. Next time you're in the area, we'll have you in the studio again, okay?
Please do.
All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Looks like y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
America's beloved classic, The Sound of Music, is coming to the stage at Corning Peña Post High School March 21st through the 23rd at 7 p.m. and March 24th at 2 p.m. This timeless story of family, love, and triumph will find you singing along with all the songs you've grown up with. All reserved seats are just $10, so get yours today at www.cppasd.com/tickets. That's www.cppasd.com/tickets. So bring your family today and find your dream.
Coming from all across the country to compete in the crown jewel of rodeo.
You can't go at it any harder.
The competition is stacked. Brash rookies and legendary veterans.
Unbelievable.
Take on the top pros. It's a winner-take-all showdown for the biggest payday in rodeo. $1 million. The American Rodeo, Saturday on Fox.
Welcome back to the one-year anniversary celebration of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to Senator Tom O'Mara for being our guest. Also, I want to mention a big thank you to everybody who has been saying congratulations. I really appreciate that. It's almost overwhelming. So thank you so much. You have a great show, dude. I like that one. Thank you so much. But to get to some more nitty-gritty, because we don't have a lot of time, we've got to talk to Assemblyman Chris Friend in just a moment. So I want to get to some more political talking points here that people have sent in. From a viewer, people who saw the State of the Union blame Trump for not letting Congress pass the bill on the border. They have no idea all the garbage that's in that bill, and it's just a way for the Democrats to get what they want. I think that's an interesting point because that has become, in the media, and of course the Democrat Party, that has become the talking point, that it's Republicans. We saw from Governor Hochul on The View. It's the Republicans holding it up because of Trump. They don't talk about, though Mike Johnson's tried to mention, and others, they don't, but the media won't cover it, that there is things in it. It's not a compromise bill. You know, a compromise, very often what we see in the media is one side has to give in to the other 100%. And I think you know which side I'm talking about. And that seems to be the case here. Also, another comment from a viewer. This green agenda of the Democrats is based on theory and conjecture. No proof to support it. What's interesting, and I know we had talked about this at one point, and again, it's more of a New York City issue, but there's the new green energy regulations, and it's just going to destroy many of the famous pizzerias in New York City. One of the oldest coal-fired pizzerias in America is serving a cautionary tale as more than 100 other pizza shops in New York City prepare for the green new energy regulations. The general manager, Kevin Jackson, he works at John's of Bleecker Street, said it's going to be tough. $150,000 is a lot of money. That's what it's going to cost them to convert over to meet these regulations. I feel for the places that have to do it now, because there was $150,000. This was 3 years ago that he paid this. I don't even know what would it cost now. Starting April the 27th, the New York City Department of Environmental Protection will enforce the rule, which applies to restaurants with cook stoves installed before May of 2016. The mandate, originally proposed in June, requires affected pizzeria owners to install a filter, then hire an engineer to inspect the carbon emissions. Those emissions must reportedly be reduced by at least 75%. So destroying iconic pizzerias. One employee at Coal Brick Oven Pizza said, I think putting this regulation in place for everyone, regardless if it's having an impact on neighbors or not, is overkill. Listen, I suffer from asthma. No one is more interested in having clean air, and in particular for you, than I am. However, it's the cost of doing business in New York City, as we found out. So just in general, New York, making sure to drive out one business at a time until we are, well, it's like we mentioned yesterday on the program, the idea, or was it with, no, this was a while ago, but the idea that we are on the loser end of things now. We're no longer looked at as a viable state to come to for business, whether you talk about the shoplifting issue, whether you just talk about the climate in general. So I wanted to mention that because I thought it tied in great with what a viewer had to say. Let's see this. Unfortunately, this is from a viewer. The cycle of creating the problems and attempting to solve them with even bigger ones keeps on repeating. That is very true. The only breaks in the cycle happens when Republican logic is applied, and that's very often why you'll see Democrats run more conservative. The short gain of votes from talking points will slowly drop as more people wake up. Thank you for that. All right, we've got to take a break. We'll have Assemblyman Chris Friend. Oh, one quick announcement that I didn't have an opportunity to mention yesterday, where the news broke on, I don't know if you'd call it this story, but Congressman Langworthy has announced the 2024 Congressional Art Competition for local high school students. It's a really neat program. Anyone in the New York 23rd in high school, they're eligible to submit artwork. The winning artwork will be displayed for 1 year in the U.S. Capitol, but the important note there, the deadline for submission is April 19th, 2024. Congressman Langworthy had this to say. Western New York and the Southern Tier are filled with artistic talent, and I'm thrilled to once again host a congressional art competition to showcase the incredible work of our local high school students. This competition provides a unique opportunity for young artists to have their talent recognized on the national stage. I encourage all eligible students to participate and share their art with our community and the nation. Now, if you have more questions, you see all the information there on the bottom of your screen. You can call our friend Sharon Murphy or email. You see the email there as well. So spread the word on that. All right, we've got to take another short break. Stay with us. This is, I can take that off the screen now, I hope. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox, celebrating 1 year on the air. Chris Friend coming up next.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselsen's Hot Tub. Hesselsen's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselsen's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselsen's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselsen's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Was your preemie baby fed a cow's milk baby formula such as Similac or Enfamil? If so, your child may be entitled to significant financial compensation. Evidence shows that cow's milk formulas increase the risk of NEC in premature babies, causing severe harm and even death. If your child was born premature and suffers from NEC, intestinal perforations, sepsis, cerebral palsy, or died as a result, you may have the right to sue for significant financial compensation. Call now for a free case review.
This right here is confidence in a bottle. It makes me feel so much more confident than I've ever felt
They are some of the hottest videos on social media. Those videos claiming to instantly get rid of bags under your eyes. Annette Figueroa is here to tell us why she says this one is for real.
This one is for real, and I'm so excited. We even have a video, and all he uses is a small amount on a clean, dry face. And what it does is it tightens and lifts the appearance of bags underneath your eyes. And I did this to my father. We were at home, so we applied it to his under eye bags, and let me tell you, we were so excited. In under 10 minutes, they visibly disappeared from view, and now it is literally part of both of our daily routines. And not only does it work on the bags, it works on the appearance of crow's feet, fine lines, and wrinkles.
At our $14.95 price, it's the best way to try Plexiderm and see it work after your first application. Your solution is at plexidermtrial.com or call the number on your screen.
It's a season of sharing.
Having a good time has always been my #1 goal. I tend to get crazy. At my age, I should not be jumping up and down like that. And if you don't know what I mean, ask your mama. The young ones, y'all like, we don't know what you're talking about. But I promise you, in 30 years, you will.
It's the best time in daytime.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. on Big Fox.
Welcome back, frankly speaking, the big 1-year anniversary special. We have Assemblyman Chris Friend on Zoom. Hey, Chris, it's good to see you.
Good morning, Frank, and congratulations on your 1 year. Thank you for everything that you're doing, providing information to our local area.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We've got so much to cover, and I want to start with public safety because recently, and I've had it with Senator O'Mara, I've had it with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. I think it's really interesting that Hochul is now trying to act tough and say that she's always been very strong on public safety. He's always been very strong on the justice system. It's almost as if we weren't paying attention for the last however many years.
Yeah, I mean, if she were truly strong with public safety, then when you went to your local store to buy shaving cream or razors, you wouldn't have to have somebody come over and unlock that bureau to get that razor and then have to pay for it immediately. You'd be able to go around and continue your shopping and pay for everything at once. And that's happening all across the state. Just on another issue, the MTA in January saw a 46% rise in their crime. So what does Governor Hochul do? She comes out and says, I'm going to conscript 1,000 National Guards, MTA police, and state police, and they're going to do bag searches. And what is that going to do? If you don't want to have your bag searched, you're not allowed to go on the subway. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, but people that still want to commit crime, they're not going to hear by that. They're still going to be pushing people in front of the trains.
Exactly.
They're going to be shoving people on the trains. And then she comes up with the idea that, well, this might cause anxiety if somebody sees a state police officer carrying a long arm. So the state police aren't going to carry the long arms, but yes, they will be there somewhere. You're just not going to see them. It's absolute lunacy. I mean, the real issue is bail reform.
100%.
You need to give the judges the judicial discretion and stop this repeat offender status that's going on. And what was something that was really interesting with criminal and public safety right now, what we found out during the public hearings is if an individual commits a crime, is brought in to be processed, is released, commits another crime, processed, released. If they do that multiple times in a day, the judicial system, the criminal justice system, is only counting that as one crime that day.
Wow, is that right?
So that is another way that they're fudging the numbers.
Yeah.
To reduce the number of crimes that they actually have. On top of the fact that they're not prosecuting crime, they're not going after crime. So automatically the numbers are going down, but they're also fudging the numbers right there.
That's amazing. We had the recent story with, and I don't know how to exactly word this, but when there was body parts found, we had all of that scenario come down and those people were released, but Governor Hochul weighs in on this too. So you have the governor on a consistent basis saying she's tough on crime and then showing something else. If you recall, maybe you saw this, when she was saying she was tough on crime, she blamed bail reform on former Governor Cuomo. Now, I'll never normally say this because I'm not normally ever going to agree with something Cuomo's spokesperson said, but he said, when does Kathy Hochul stop being an innocent bystander and start taking credit for what she's been doing? I thought that was a very fair point.
Right, and that body case is just case in point.
Yeah.
The evidence that they had, the investigation that they did not warrant for them to keep them in with bail.
Right.
So they had to release them, but what they wanted to make sure is that they identified the individuals that were associated with this crime.
Right.
And immediately Governor Hochul weighs in and says, you should have charged them with a higher offense so you could keep them in jail. And she knows nothing about the case.
Right.
The attorney from Suffolk County has to come out and say, what are you doing weighing in? We have the best investigators in the country.
Right.
We wanted to make sure that we did this properly. And now Governor Hochul is saying, lock up what could be the innocent individuals. They may have not had anything to do with the murder.
Right.
They may have just had, who knows what part they played in this. But Governor Hochul, who's supporting bail reform, doesn't want to lock up the innocent, is saying, lock them up because it's making me look bad.
Right. It all goes back to PR. You're 100% right. With her, it's always about. It's just like when they made the last little changes to bail reform, and she did the press conferences saying, "See, we're really tough on crime." To her, it's all at the end of the day about PR and saving the House for Democrats.
And what I was shocked, I didn't realize this, but she's a lawyer. She got her law degree from Washington, and she should know better.
Yes.
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
And speaking of Governor Hochul, I want to talk about, Governor, DeNapoli saying out-migration is hurting state tax revenue. We see businesses leaving in droves. To your point earlier, shoplifting has created a situation where either they're not looking at us to come here to New York State or they're leaving. So I thought maybe you could talk about the climate in general on that.
Right, and DeNapoli's report is very timely.
Yeah,
he
perfect
just
timing.
recently released that, showing that an increase in taxation of the wealthy is actually going to hurt our revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we have an over-reliance of personal income tax, and we had a very large percentage of personal income tax filers leaving the state and not coming in. And then just recently, the number of personal income tax filers that have caused a minor increase do not live in the state.
Right.
They're living in New Jersey and Connecticut, Pennsylvania. So their entire income is not taxed, only the portion that they're making while working in most likely New York City or Westchester or one of those counties that they're commuting to. So this is a huge impact. The One House budgets just came out. Governor Hochul had increased the taxes or the spending within the state by 4.5%.
Wow.
The One House budgets, the Assembly raises it by 12%.
Wow. I don't know what I expected.
It just hasn't sunk into them that who creates inflation? Who is causing these problems?
Right.
Government spending is one of those top issues with inflation. We can't continue to spend our way out of this recession. I know the government has changed the terms for what a recession is, but we are living in a recession and have been living in a recession. It's a massive inflation. They just came out with reports that inflation is higher than they anticipated, and we can't continue to spend like this. So what does the Assembly One House budget do? They're increasing taxation just opposite of what DeNapoli recommended. So they want to tax the wealthy who are actually creating jobs, keeping money within the economy, and it's going to cause an even greater outmigration. We have the greatest exodus of billionaires within the state, and that's who they want to target. Unfortunately, when you have one billionaire leave, it takes many, many, many millionaires to make up the difference of what a billionaire leaves with. So it's the wrong approach, and we're going in the wrong direction. And what we just saw with Attorney General James and what she's recently done, she went after former President Trump, and this was a victimless crime. Nobody was complaining except for the fact that Attorney General James campaigned on the fact that she was going to get him. I'm gonna charge him. I'm gonna convict him. They found the right judge to do exactly that, who was just posing for the camera during the entire trial.
Exactly.
His law clerk, who was beside him, is now going to be a judge. She's unopposed on the ballot. So she got what she needed. That judge got all the press that he wanted. And President Trump, with that conviction, is causing, Attorney General James is causing more businesses to leave the state because they realize if they haven't been donated to the Democrat coffers, and if they ever get off the line of what the Democrats say, they could be next. And we see that time and time again from the national government on down. Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
Getting rid of her server. No repercussions. Hunter Biden illegally filing for a gun permit. Millions of dollars in revenue that he owes back taxes. Nothing done with it. President Biden, classified documents as a senator of the United States, as a vice president, no ability to declassify that information. Clearly a violation of the classified records clause. No charge, nothing. Even if you want to say, oh, they're going to charge him, he'll just go ahead and say that he doesn't have to abide by this. They don't even charge him with it. But on the other hand, a Republican, a conservative, President Trump, every state is trying to remove him from the ballot or to charge him in court and go after him.
I know.
So it's clearly very purposeful that if you're a Republican or conservative, you're standing on the line of being charged by any government, whether national or state.
It sends a message, too. And that's what they want you to be scared of. And to your point, I saw a piece right after that decision came down on the former president. And I've never watched the show, but Shark Tank, the guy from Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful, I guess they call him, he came out and said it's decisions like this that are making New York go into the losers category, meaning no one in the business community is seriously looking at New York to come here or to stay here. And I thought, boy, that's a troubling sign when it's that crystal clear to so many at this point.
Right. And another just great recent example was the Gold Star father who called out during the State of the Union and was immediately arrested and could face up to 5 years in prison. Jamal Bowman, on the other hand, actually pulled a fire alarm. We all saw him do it. He clearly purposefully pulled that fire alarm, tried to hide the evidence by pulling those signs down. No jail time, $1,000 fine, no big deal. All the Palestinian protesters that blocked the presidential
the motorcade before the State of the Union. Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. No charges against any one of them, nothing there, because they're supporting the Democrat cause.
Double standard.
We are clearly living in a divided nation.
And speaking of that, as obviously the presidential election is starting to heat up, as you could say, now polling shows that illegal immigration is ranking at either number one or maybe number two behind public safety to voters. What are you seeing in Albany? And I'm sure it's a major discussion about illegal immigration as we talk about New York City, but also here in upstate.
Right, and that has been one of the top issues on the Assembly's budget as to where they're going to spend money. It's caused a major divide in the Democrat conference because they don't want to see more of this illegal immigration. They see the crime that it's causing, the issues that it's causing with their school districts down in New York City and displacing their own students. But it's a huge issue that we need to face. And the only way we can really face it is by doing this legally. Shut down the border, do exactly what Trump said, maintain the individuals in Mexico or in the country of origin, process them in that country, and then bring them in. Right. President Biden has done just the opposite. He didn't want to have that public perception of so many people coming across the southern border, and we're actually seeing them come across the northern border now. And he's had secret flights where he's brought in over 300,000 illegals from other countries, directly flying them in to 43 cities within our country. That's absolutely ridiculous. He knows that they don't belong here. They didn't come through any naturalization process. They didn't come through an immigration process.
Oh, Chris, I might have lost you. Hold on real quick. We're going to take a short break. Freezing up. Stay with us.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-977-4997. That's 1-800-977-4997, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
Alden and Missy face off in Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
I'm not feeling so good. Biohazard! Biohazard!
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We fixed the technical issue. Chris, thanks again for being on the program. Before the computer froze, we were talking about the illegal immigration issue, and you had mentioned the secretive flights, kind of going back, and Biden doing that, but kind of going back to what we were saying about Hochul too. It's all about the optics, trying to confuse people about what's really going on.
Correct. And we've had illegals being flown into New York for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
We actually had children being flown in, and I had reached out to Governor Hochul's office to ask.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. We fixed the technical issue. Chris, thanks again for being on the program. Before the computer froze, we were talking about the illegal immigration issue, and you had mentioned the secretive flights, kind of going back, and Biden doing that, but kind of going back to what we were saying about Hochul too. It's all about the optics, trying to confuse people about what's really going on.
Correct. And we've had illegals being flown into New York for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
We actually had children being flown in, and I had reached out to Governor Hochul's office to ask where are these individuals, where are they coming from?
Right.
We know if they've been vaccinated, if we're going to be putting them into schools, where are they going? And the governor's office never replied to me about that. There's a lot of issues that are going on, and again, we know nothing about these individuals. They're not being, we have no DNA about them. We have no fingerprinting going on.
No.
We have no idea of their background. I've spoken with congressional members who've been to the southern border, and they've seen the stockpiles of IDs left on the other side of the border.
Wow.
Because they're told when they come across to ditch all that information to make sure that you are unidentifiable. And here are the terms and words that you need to say when anybody from the U.S. asks you questions, so that they get the right terminology to get through the checkpoints and get the access and the services that they're asking them to do. Unfortunately, many of these individuals are being human trafficked.
Yes.
Many of them are these women are being raped many times a day. And it's just horrendous that we're supporting anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
We have time and time again where we're supporting issues where we're trying to fight human trafficking, we're trying to fight drug abuse, but then we're supporting these illegals coming across, all on the idea that they're immigrants who are going to build up our country and who built our country. And that's a fallacy.
Right. There's a great point that they made at the New York Post just the other day that was, because that's what President Biden's been saying, that they built this country, ignoring the legal system. And that's what we're talking about here, the illegal aspect of this. And think of the fact that the president apologized for saying illegal and then couldn't, of course, as we now know, get Laken Riley's name right. I mean, it becomes very frustrating, and I think that's why voters have made it their number, if not number one or number two concern before we head into the election.
Right, and that's just appalling. It's really abhorrent that he came through and apologized for calling that individual an illegal.
Mm-hmm.
He beat Laken Riley's head in.
Yeah, it's horrible.
He smashed her head. I mean, what kind of sick individual does that to another human being, especially somebody like Laken Riley? I mean, this is completely uncalled for, and you do not need to show that individual compassion.
No, it's horrible. I know you're very busy here in Albany. Before we go, how is everything in Albany? Good?
It's definitely very chaotic. We're just getting ready to go through the one-house budget process. Was released Monday night, very late, and for whatever reason, they're allowing that bill to have the 3-day aging period. So we're voting on it tomorrow on a getaway day. They're hoping that we're not going to debate the bill and drag it out. That's why they do it on the getaway day, as well as trying to give it the transparency issue, which they haven't done for many other bills this session or last session.
Do you think you'll make the deadline?
No.
Okay. Well, there we go.
We are so far apart from where the governor started
Yeah.
and everything that they're asking for. It's definitely not going to be an on-time budget.
Well, Chris, thanks so much for being on the one-year anniversary special. I can't thank you enough.
Well, congratulations, Frank.
Thanks. All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
Wow. You found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
This is an important message for firefighters, members of the military, and airport workers. For decades, first responders and firefighters at military bases and airports used a chemical-based foam to fight fires. Studies have shown that chemicals used to make aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF, are highly toxic to humans and have been associated with several types of cancer. If you or someone you know was diagnosed with any of those cancers, call now for a free case review.
Sorry about that. A couple quick little glitches there. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox celebrating the 1-year anniversary. It's hard to believe. And we've had some amazing guests, haven't we? And I appreciate everybody who said thanks. We've got a lot of messages to get to before we wrap up today's edition. These are all from viewers. New York ranks last in the country for their sensibilities in government policies, all while the Biden administration is making America last. So yes, that's not good numbers if you think about it. Hochul and James have shown the world who the real fascists in America are, and that's in reference to what Assemblyman Chris Friend had to say what that's going to do for business. I mean, I know I mentioned it with Mr. Wonderful again. I don't know why I keep quoting this guy. I never watched Shark Tank, but it's a great point. It scares more businesses away, and then we have back to back what I mentioned with the new green energy policies that are hurting so much. Here's another comment. Tom's comments, meaning Tom O'Mara, if you're just tuning into the program, Tom's comments paint a bleak picture on where the state is going. It's hard to see how the Republicans can change the direction of New York, given that the Democrat machine owns the cities with social programs dividing us, mail-in voting, and ballot harvesting. Thank you, Ken. How about this? The fly-by-night businesses will come for the free tax gifts, then turn around and fold with zero consequences. Another great point. How often has that happened? How many billions have we promised various corporations that ended up folding? Next, in the construction world, we have what's called a performance bond. Maybe that same thing could be applied to our key elected officials to give incentive to do a better job. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't think they're making, many of them in Washington, making a fortune from not performing well. So I'm not sure. It would have to be one heck of a kind of a bonus, if you will. And currently, they could burn the country to the ground and walk away the way the system is right now. Well, I appreciate that. Hey, thank you to everybody who reached out. I'm running late. I can't believe how much fun I've had on the 1-year anniversary edition of Frankly Speaking. I'm hoping you're having as much fun, and I hope that you'll tune in tomorrow morning starting at 7 for Frankly Speaking, only on Big Fox. Have a great day, everyone.
Sheldon and Missy face off in
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big Fox.